All right.
Good day, podcast community. Dang, this is so cool. Being a former golfer and a future golfer, when I can have two golfers on the podcast at one time, holy mackerel. I feel like I'm back playing. So, Rand, people know you. I want you to introduce yourself first if they haven't. There's a couple people out here in the city that don't know you. So the ones that don't know you, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And if you wouldn't mind introducing your guest, that would be awesome.
All right. My identity is not my business card. As many have heard me speak before, I'm
Mhm.
the child of the Most High King, the Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ. And I serve as a pastor here at Church of the Apostles in Atlanta. And I have an emphasis on senior care, recovery ministry, people helping in general. And then in my downtime, play golf and make really amazing friends like Pete and Luke. And today is going to be a really cool discussion about golf and Luke's life. And I'll stop for a second, then I'll explain how I met Luke.
Awesome. And so introduce Luke to our community. And then you
Okay.
guys get going.
Yeah. So Luke was working at the PGA Superstore for a number of years, and I built a relationship with him, and just me flowing and the things of life and the wisdom of God and what I've been through in life. Luke pressed deeper into my heart relationally, and I had pursued him for a time, and then he started coming over to my house and fishing. Caught like a 6, 7 pounder at my house, a bass one day, and then I got to see the greatest round of golf I've ever seen in my life by Luke on punched greens at Pine Tree. Hit every green in regulation, on and two on every par five, 10 birdies. Okay, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever personally witnessed, and it was just like, all right, well, this guy's elite. There's good, and then there's
Yeah.
and he's nice enough to play with a rump like me, and we built a friendship over the last several years, and we got a lot of stories, and we're gonna break one down today.
Well, just to reiterate on that, I think me probably not quite being as far along on my walk with God as most are. Rand came into my life at a time of huge need. There is certainly something, from Jesus up above putting us together because it came at a nice time. And we do have some good stories with that. So I'm excited to be on and chat a little about them and answer any questions Rand has too.
Yeah, so Luke went from being a collegiate golfer. I'm sure he was an All-American. He was on the Cannon Cup. He had countless resume bullet points that set him
Mhm.
apart from just great golfers to the elite status. And he played at Clemson. And about the time we started pressing into our relationship and seeking the Lord together, and looking at life with the eyes of the heart and having deeper conversations around what matters. His college teammate and the guy he grew up with, Ben Martin, called him and said, "Hey, man, will you help me come back down to the Corn Ferry Tour and get my PGA Tour card back?" So he and Luke went down to the Corn Ferry and finished, I think, eighth, and they take 10.
It
Um,
was no, it was Corn Ferry Finals, and
okay,
so the top 30 from the Corn Ferry got their PGA Tour card back.
got
And
it.
Ben hadn't had his card in a little while, and just happened to call and say, "Will you come do the Corn Ferry Finals?" And we finished like 17th, I believe.
Okay.
And then so we got the PGA Tour card back, and then we're back out.
And then from
There
there,
you
they've
go.
been on tour now 2.5 years. And here's the incredible. Just so I set Luke up with my aunt and uncle Paul and Vicky Moore that live down in St. Simons, and as they played an entire season on tour, it culminated with I got to go down there and stay with my aunt and uncle. Luke stayed with them all week, and now has done so a couple of years in a row. But it was at the RSM. and Luke and Ben are in the final pairing at the RSM. And I'm like, this is about on Sunday. And I'm like, this is about to be storybook right here. And Luke's out there just, when they're in their rhythm, he's got a different kind of walk like Rory does. And I'm like, there go Luke with that sea walk. And he's walking it out. And anyway, it didn't end the way we hoped it would, but they got a lot of TV coverage, and Luke's just had an amazing couple of years of life, and he's going to tell a pretty amazing story about the Players Championship and the Caddy Day. Hit it, Luke.
Okay, so for this story, I'll try not to make it too long, but it's one of the strangest. I think for a week after, I could not sleep at all. I was trying to figure out, what happened, but I think it was the biggest. Really, it was Jesus grabbing at me as hard as he could, saying, "Hey, listen to me." So the story with that was, it was at the Players Championship. I'd never caddied at the Players Championship before. It was definitely the biggest tournament I'd been to so far. I still didn't know a ton of the caddies out there at this time either. I'm still getting to know people, figure some things out. And I knew that they hit a shot on number 17 at Players Championship. It's the Island Green, the most picturesque hole in golf, they say, whatever. And so Ben, we were talking about when we were going to do it. He was like, well, we'll go out Wednesday morning and do it. And I was like, okay. So I was texting my buddies back home, and I was like, they were gambling on whether or not I was going to hit it on the green or hit it in the water. They were betting a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And so one of my buddies was like, Luke, you got it, man. You're hitting it inside 15 feet. My other buddy was like, dude, you're hitting it in the water, guaranteed. So that was I was like, all right, well, boys, we're going out there at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Here's the odds for the shot. Hole in one. There aren't any odds. I'm not making a hole in one. On the green, 1-1. In the water, 1-1. However, I could randomly throw a dart to like 4 feet, 7 inches. Completely joking. I put like 5 different numbers in there, whatever. To backtrack a little bit, when I met Rand, I was going through a divorce, and it was probably the hardest time of my life, I would say. There were a lot of things that, it was a good thing that we were getting divorced, but it was a real step back and try to find myself again and see, what maybe some things I'm not doing that aren't great. I need to get a little bit closer with God, and we got engaged in Jacksonville, and I lived in Jacksonville. And for the week of the Players Championship, I was staying at one of our bridesmaids' mom's house. That was nice enough to let me stay there. So I was a little uncomfortable emotionally in Jacksonville because it just put me in a weird mind space. I was trying to block it out. I was scared to see all of our friends from when we were together. It was just a weird spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the Players Championship was always a big thing down there. So I was like, I don't know who I'm going to see down there. Am I going to see random friends? Are they going to act weird towards me? That was kind of my whole mindset. So now going back to the text messages, that was what the ending was. I was like, either 4 feet, 7 inches in the water on the green. So we walk out, and I didn't know the shot was for anything. I thought you won like a couple $100. $500 was my guess, but I didn't know. And I was the only one out there with Ben. It was Ben and I alone. We played 10 and 11 and then 16, 17, 18. When we got on 17, Ben's going to record or whatever. So I line up to hit with my 8-iron, and I pick up my hands, and they're shaking so bad that I don't know, like this, whatever, man. I'm just going to hit it in the water. Just hit it. Yeah. And I hit it and looked up. I was like, oh, my goodness, that is right at the flag. So I just watched it like, I don't know where this is going to go. And then it lands, everyone starts clapping. I was like, oh, let's go. I hit it on the green. And we walked up. I was like, dang, that looks a little closer than I thought it was. And the little scoreboard behind it pops up, Luke Hopkins, 5 feet, 6 inches. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. That's better than I thought. It's windy. I got a better chance. We walk up there, and Ben's like, he kind of paces off with his feet, and he's like, that ball's not 5 feet. So he yells over to the guy. He's like, I don't think that distance is right. And he's like, that's what I shot from over here. And Ben was like, this might be for a lot of money. Can you come down here and measure it? And he was like, okay. So he walks out on the green, puts his thing in the hole, pulls out his tape, and he's like, "All right, 4 feet 7 inches." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, 4 feet 7 inches." I was like, "Oh my, dude, that's what I texted her." So I started like freaking out. And then we got done, and we go over on the driving range after. And the first person to come up to me was Scotty Scheffler. And he was like, "Was that you that hit that shot? 4 feet 7 inches? I hear you." And I was like, "What is happening?" He was like, "Did you see how much money that's for? That's worth like 30 grand now." I was like, $30,000. And Ben was like, "Yeah, that was worth a lot of money, dude." I was like, "Wait, what?" He was like, "Yeah, it's start." Anyway, so it ended up being for like $31,000.
Whoa.
And they donated half in my name to the Bruce Edwards Foundation, who's a famous
Yep.
caddy. And then I got the other half in cash. And the entire day of the Players Championship,
Yeah.
all of a sudden was about me. And it was like I don't know, man. It was the weirdest. Like all the caddies were like, "Hey, man, what's up? Good shot. I'm Bones," or "I'm Mike
Yeah.
Greller," or whatever. All of a sudden, I knew all the other caddies. It ended up being the coolest day of my entire life.
Wow.
And I got to know, all the players are coming up to me. I was like, "What
Right.
just happened?" And so when I was telling my friends the story after, because they, of course, the Golf Channel got hold of the text message conversation because they didn't believe. I told them, I was like, "Dude, I said I was going to hit them." They're like, "Can we see the text conversation?" I was like, "Yeah, it's right here." So then I had interviews with the Golf Channel the whole afternoon. Come to find out, it was on the 2-year anniversary of our divorce in Jacksonville.
Oh,
Wow.
And I hit it to the exact distance that I said the night before. I was like, I feel like God was trying to get my attention a lot during the divorce, and I wasn't answering the call. I was,
right.
getting into some habits that were not going to be beneficial to me. They were
Mhm.
only creating more problems for myself. And I was, I think it was a little more of I know I need God in my life right now. And for some reason, I'm pushing this away.
Mhm.
And I think that was God saying, "I've tried to get your attention during problems. Maybe this one will get your attention." I don't know, but that was the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. And I was like, there is one reason and one reason only that
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
period. And not a whole lot of people know that story, but I'm dead serious when I tell you I couldn't sleep for like a week. I was like, "Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Why?" You know what? There is only one reason, and it was God saying, "Listen, you're fine. The
Yes.
divorce is fine. That happens. I got you, bro. Come walk with
Praise
me, and
God.
everything's gonna get better for you." And
That is,
and I firmly believe that. But that was
yes.
a cool story for me for sure.
Really amazing.
That's more than cool. That is probably, and I've done 250 of these podcasts. I've never even anything close to that when it comes
It
to,
was
not even close. Because I have all my golf friends, of course, and I played Sawgrass. I played 17. I wasn't so good as I missed the green. I hit it in the water. So,
right.
if you're a golfer, you know how intimidating that shot is. It's like it can only be what you just described. It's like God showing up saying, "I got you,
Yep.
Right.
got you. Hey, look, I got you." And that's crazy. And Rand had shared parts of that, but to hear it in your voice in the context of what you just described, I'm blown away by that. So, Rand, I'm going to let you kind of, since you guys know each other really well. I mean, I can think of 100 questions, but I want
Yeah.
you to talk to our viewers from your eyes with Luke.
Well,
Well, so on the Green podcast, I mean, here it is, Pete. This incredible story it unfolds, and Luke's such a great storyteller and a
Yeah.
great. He's amazing. He's funny. He's cool. His heart is for people and for the Lord, and
Mhm.
so for this to be on your podcast is pretty amazing. The last time I heard the story was when he told it on ESPN or the
Oh,
Golf
really?
Channel. and he spoke so well on TV. It was just like, there's Luke up there being Luke. And
That
so
wasn't lacking nerves, though. I was
right.
shaking during the entire
So
conversation.
on that exactly, why so Luke hasn't played golf since March or February. Okay, and yesterday we go out and play in this fundraiser event for the Riverwood High School football team
Mm-hmm.
at Indian Hills, and to watch Luke step up, he won the long drive. He outdrove Evan Thompson, who bombs the ball
Yeah.
350 yards.
Well,
Okay,
keep in mind that I want to make sure the viewers do know that he outdrove me on nearly every hole. If it's
yeah,
downwind off the right for me, I can keep up with the best of them because that is my
right.
best wind direction for my ball flight.
All right,
I
Yeah.
connected with one, got a nice bounce, and outdrove him by 3 yards. It
and
was on the hole that counted, but I don't want to get it twisted that I'm some guy that hits the ball 350 because I don't.
and
But I did win that one.
good point. Good point. But so Luke, we're riding in the golf cart along, and I hit a really good drive, and I'm like 30 or more yards behind them, and I got all butthurt about it. And Luke, like my granddad, says to me, "How old are you?" I said 48. He goes, "I've been playing golf at a high level since you were 12 years old." I'm like, all right, Luke, I received that, man. I'm never gonna hit the ball where you do, but that's okay. And that particular day, he it was amazing. I mean, he was just throwing darts in there, these low little draw moves in the wind, perfect yardage. He's calculating shots like a PGA Tour caddy, saying, "All right, this is 185, but we wanted to land 165, and why?" And he starts breaking down and analyzing shots with us and setting us up to win the tournament, which we did. But on the nerve side of things, of posting those 10 birdies on punch greens, of competing at a high level, of hitting that shot in there, Luke, for the viewers, how do you maintain a level of excellence when the pressure's on? And some people thrive in pressure, but if you don't, or if you do, how do you maintain that level of clarity to let your trust your practice and let your skill take course?
That's a really good question, and one to it's hard to describe because when you hear people say like I get in the zone or I was in the zone, nothing else was bothering me. That is a very tangible feeling that you can feel when you're doing it. And it's almost like I got to stay in the zone. And I think it comes from practice and belief in yourself. And then just, it's something that you want so bad. Like, I want to make this putt so bad, but it's a weird, you can't think of, I have to make this putt. I really have to make this putt. Cause then you're creating psychologically more nerves for yourself. Cause then you're putting more pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like, to make this putt, this ball needs to roll over this spot. And I am going to putt it over this spot. How do I get it over this spot? I'm going to take this practice stroke and I'm going to line up here. I'm going to putt here. And then paying more attention to the feel, I guess, in the putt. If you don't hit that spot, why did I not hit that spot? Okay, I hit it off the heel. It's not worrying about the result. It's not worrying about whether you made it or missed it. It's, I'm going to hit this spot and
Mm-hmm.
staying focused on that to get this ball close to the hole. Like Rand said, that was something that I think I would have been much better as a golfer. Caddying has made me a better golfer than I ever was when I was playing professionally, collegiately,
Really?
anything. But
Hmm.
the reason behind that is because I see shots in such a different way. As like Rand was saying yesterday, all right, we're 160, the hole is 165 yards. That doesn't mean we're hitting a 165-yard shot. That's just the hole is 165 yards. In order for this ball to get where we want it, it needs to land at 158 yards. Okay, so now my number is 158 yards. What's the wind doing? It's down off the right. Okay, 158 yards is going to play 152 yards. Okay, so in order to get the ball where we want it to go, we need to hit a 152-yard shot at this tree or whatever your target is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're playing golf that way instead of 165. Okay, I'm going to hit 165 yards. For amateurs, I think they would improve tremendously if the flag's back right and it's 165 yards what's the middle of the green target? That's the same thing Ben and I do on tour. It might be a different level, but the flag's in the back left. We want this ball in the middle of the green, short right. That's our target. We don't even care what flag is anymore because we're trying to hit it here. If Ben pulls it, then it's going to be right next to the flag. If he pushes it, he's 40 feet from the hole. If he hits it where he wanted to hit it, he's 15 feet from the hole. All three are going to be a non-bogey, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, making a little more conservative target. It's like a conservative aggressive play kind of, to where I can still be aggressive but not make a double bogey doing something silly. And that's what a lot of amateurs do. It's not even necessarily contact. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times an amateur will hit a great shot and make double bogey because they didn't have the right target, is essentially their only problem.
Wow. I've never heard it explained like that. That is so like insightful for our golfers out there, because what you just described is like the mindset of a person that's managing a game for a person. That's thanks for sharing that. What were you going to say, Rand?
Well, I was going to say just the correlation of golf and life. There are so many different things that have similarity, like distractions and how the course presents itself, how life presents itself. You talked about divorce. You talked about things that coming out of nowhere when they seem to be going well, and you had your 3 birdies on the front 9, and then you shoot 42 on the back. Like, how do you learn from life and learn from golf things that shape you as a person?
Well, Ben, my boss, he always says, and he is a unbelievable guy, you know, a believer, strong believer. He's helped me in my walk more than I think he knows. But he always says, and I think it's what his dad told him, and I know it's a common saying, but life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react.
Mm-hmm.
And that could not be more true in golf.
Yeah.
My dad
Great
always
answer.
said, you know, that's why people in sales play golf all the time, because you can figure out who you're dealing with in a business partner in a matter of 2 holes.
Yes.
How much they're cussing, how much they're throwing clubs, how
Yep.
calm they are, and when they're nervous. You know, you can get somebody's personality in a hurry on the golf course. And I think that's the biggest part of golf, and also the hardest part of golf. The hardest part of golf is controlling your emotions, for
Yep.
sure. Because for me, when I played, you know, if I'm 6 under par at the front 9, I might as well be doing jumping jacks. Like I'm very vibrant. I'm loud on the golf course. You can tell I'm playing good. And when I'm playing bad, I'm not out there throwing stuff and breaking stuff. I certainly try not to, but you're going to, like, I get so determined to not play bad that I'm trying so hard, and you can tell I'm playing bad, and you can tell I'm trying harder, but you can't do that. You make 3 birdies in a row. All right, what's the next hole? You make 3 bogeys in a row. All right, what's the next hole? And Ben is unbelievable. Like, one time caddying for Ben, this was right after college, probably 2011. I know he's heard me tell this story. I don't like telling it that much because it was something that wasn't good that happened. We don't talk about it now, but he hit a ball to like 6 feet and 3 putted. Got up, putted past, went up and tapped it in, missed it coming back. And in my first time ever caddying, I didn't know what to say to him, because for me, I'm like, dude, what was that? What are you doing? But obviously, as a caddy, you don't say anything. You just take the putter. So I reached out my hand to take the putter, and he flipped it over and goes, whoops, and walked over to the next tee and was like, what we got? And I was like, well, it's 237 hole, whatever. It was almost 240-yard hole. And he hit hybrid to like a foot, tapped in for birdie, and then made eagle on the next hole. But
Unbelievable. Yeah.
like, I would have still, even if I went birdie, if I had a freaking 3-putted from 6 feet on, I'd still be thinking about that. Ben just flipped the putter and said, whoops, and then walked over and hit it to, like, you know, and that's hard to come by, but you see a lot of it on the PGA Tour. But that's the biggest thing in golf, man, is controlling your emotions. And
Yep.
and I I don't do this very well myself, and I try to tell Rand about it, but positive self-talk, man. The more times you tell yourself, I can't do this or I'm nervous to do this, you're only making it worse.
Yep.
You just, hey, I can do this. Come on. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit it here. Come on, let's go. And if you don't do it, okay, well, we got to do better on the next shot. Let's go, but getting down on yourself and talking bad to yourself is not going to be the answer.
No, I love that. And I love the idea that you broke it down into the mindset part of it, because no matter where you are, it gets down to that, how you manage that mind and the talk you're talking about. Because I have seen it even at Pine Tree. You see clubs flying in the air, and you can determine your opponent by how they react to adversity. That you can say, hey, I got this person because they're losing it. And then you're losing it, it's just the next shot's going to be dead right or whatever, because you're not managing that emotion. What would you like? I know, Rand, we promised to only keep Luke a little bit, because as we wind down, what other questions would you want our viewers to hear from our guest, Luke?
Well, I think a great way to close it out is if he could just tell a story of who he's been impressed with behind the ropes, seeing these high profile golfers that we watch every week. Like, who, Luke, has made the biggest impression on you and why? Beside Ben, we know Ben's like the most incredible guy. And I've had the chance to meet him. He's an incredibly genuine and amazing player, wonderful person, has a lot of respect on tour. We can talk about that, but who else? I know you played with Rory in the final pairing this year, but who made the biggest impression on you?
Well, Rory wasn't the final pairing, but it was the final round. We were like 4 groups from that. We did come in 7th that week.
Yeah.
I would say, the biggest question I get is who's the biggest jerk out on tour. And number one, I don't like answering that one because I try to only talk about positives, and there aren't really many out there. I would say of the big names, Scotty Scheffler, probably. His caddy knows, big believer. Scotty's a big believer. He's just there couldn't be a better person to be a role model for golf right now, in my opinion. I like Scotty a lot. He's a very, very friendly person. So is Teddy. And he is very good at golf, clearly. When we played with Rory, I was a little nervous about playing with Rory for whatever reason, but he couldn't have been nicer. I mean, he was just out there doing his job, playing golf. He was friendly. He was very talkative. Came up, introduced himself. How are you? I'm Rory. What's going on, man? Luke. We talked about soccer a little bit. One story that people might like that I don't think people realize until you're out there, or maybe you don't even realize when you're a part of it. I certainly didn't until I was caddying. When those guys have, they talk about the Tiger Woods effect from playing with him back in the day. I can only imagine, strictly from playing with Rory, because when we're playing with Rory, there's 5-10 rows deep on everywhere around the entire hole. So if Rory makes birdie on the hole before, he's teeing off first, right? And so we're going to be going third. Rory tees off first, and 75% of that 5,000 that's on the hole starts walking down the fairway because they don't care about anybody else's hitting. They're just there to watch Rory.
Whoa.
So when he tees off first, everyone starts walking at the same time. And the other 2 players got to just deal with it. Your caddies are trying to get them to stop. You're trying to tell 5,000 people to stop. It doesn't go over very well.
Yeah.
So, you do have help from the volunteers. Are they quiet, please, stand, please, whatever. But I don't think people realize how, because you're just a part of it, like, oh, they teed off, we're going to walk. That's that many people that is just nothing but a distraction for the other 2 that have to lock in more because they're playing with Rory. Now you take that to Tiger Woods back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Good grief, man! I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine. That was a cool thing to see from inside the ropes. Like, oh, this is what they're talking about, because when Ben's playing, we'll get on a couple holes that have a ton of people with all the grandstands and everything, but most of the time there's not a tremendous amount of people watching our group. But then all of a sudden you play with Rory and you got thousands on every hole, and that was cool to see. But also it was nice to see Ben, like, you could tell he was locked in, got in that zone we were talking about where you just blocked that. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to do, and staying on that path instead of like, God, look how many people were bought, whatever.
No.
Wow. That, I never thought of it that way. I mean,
Right.
you just don't, if you're a casual observer. That's not a thing we understand. As we close down, I want Rand to lead us, and then you can certainly follow the same question. Rand, what would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take away from our time on the podcast? And then Luke, we'd love to have your thoughts on that too.
I think the biggest take for me, Luke observed me yesterday, and all the complexity of life and emotion and intensity that I bring, and humor. He knows me. He's seen me. You have too, Pete. We've played a lot of golf together, and I think the take for me, and one that I would underscore is important for the listener, is what Luke just said about life and how you present yourself on a golf course is pretty much a representation of who you really are. And that those things can be changed, and you can better yourself as an individual. You're not who you are today, and that's indefinitely who you will be through life. So I think for me to take from that is, how can I be better at golf and be better as a person?
Wow, I love that. Luke, what would you want our viewers to take away from our time on the podcast?
Well, those two kind of go together, Rand, too, because if you get control of your emotions, you are going to play better golf.
Yep.
That goes for everyone.
Unless you have inferior equipment like me.
That's right. That's right. Rand loves one thing, man. That's new golf equipment or old golf equipment, just different golf equipment. It doesn't matter what he's using. He always wants something different. Always. He got the best equipment.
We both have the same observation of Rand. That's exactly mine too.
100%. There's worse things. I think along the same lines of Rand there. I've really tried to focus on it recently, is just trying to find something every day to be better at. What can I go to bed tonight thinking that I did to better myself as a person today? I do have one quick final story of how Rand and I got really close. It was during that whole divorce thing. I was in the superstore, and for whatever reason, one day Rand was in there with his dad. And I was struggling bad, but I'm pretty good at going home at night and being upset or whatever, and then putting on a face during the day and being good old casual Luke, and no one knows anything's wrong. And then I go home and I was in bad shape again. And I think this is a big guy upstairs moment. Rand came in and was like, "How are you doing, Luke? Are you doing okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." He was like, "Well, are you sure? Hey, let me tell you a quick story about myself," and started telling his background. Man, I just broke down, essentially crying right then. I was like, "Rand, we got to go outside for a second," and started chatting with him. And that really, I don't think, I've told Rand multiple times how important that was in my life. I don't think Rand knows how important it was in my life. But I couldn't thank Rand enough, man. He came in at a time of need and just was sharing. Rand was just being Rand, and saving people internally, probably more than he knows anyway. But I guess to end it, for me, I would just say focus on looking for something to be better at every day. This is the best. I think that's a huge way to go in life. And when you're struggling, lean on prayer, not other crutches.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both. This has made my day. This
Mine
was
too.
actually when you said yes yesterday, Rand, and so I told Trex, I said, remember the On the Green podcast? Can you get it up real quick? Because we got two guys that are going to be on the Green podcast. So she did and got it all set up. So thank you, Drexa, for doing that. And thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with our viewers really insights they're not going to ever get. There's so many lessons in what you guys shared. I couldn't begin to even share them. But thank you so much for taking the time to share with our viewers your life's journeys.
Thanks
That
for
was
having us, Pete.
awesome. I appreciate you having us on. That was great. Would love to do it again sometime.
Well, I tell you, I'm going to take you up on it. Okay, because I was waiting for you to say that because I wasn't going to say it. But yeah, I would love to have you back because anytime you get a free moment, our viewers are golfers. Some of them are golfers. They love stories of golf. And of course, they love stories about your walk too. So I'm not saying that one's separate from the other, but they're everything. I mean, your story is your story, no matter what stories you're sharing with our viewers.
Well, my life personally and professionally is talking golf, so I don't have any problem doing it.
Okay, well, we love hearing golf. So thank you, Luke. Appreciate you being a guest. And Rand, thank you for kind of corralling him yesterday in the weak moment when he's there playing golf to say, come on, let's do something tomorrow morning. And appreciate you getting him on and being a guest. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. And we appreciate you both. Okay.
Yes, sir.